Finally! KHF has completed Fate Stay Night. And that was absolutely terrible, I'm sorry about that. But yes, I have finally watched every single episode of Fate Stay Night. I know you've all just been dying to hear my final thoughts on this series.
Well, they're dying, alright.
Well, here's how things are going to work in these videos. I'm going to start off by giving a quick overview of what I thought of the series as a whole. Then I'll say what I thought of the main characters, and then some of the minor characters. Now, if a character didn't do that much for the overall plot, I'm unlikely to mention them at all, unless there's something particular about them I feel the need to comment on. So, if I miss out some of your favourite characters, I'm sorry. And finally, I'll wrap things up by saying what I thought of the dub. Now, do keep in mind that I only watch dubs, so I am not going to be comparing it to the original Japanese cast. Rather, I'm going to be saying what I thought of the dub cast as a voice cast on their own.
Oh, because everyone will be okay with that.
Now, I'm going to try and avoid spoilers as much as possible, and that probably will require me to have to skip over certain plot points or not mention certain characters, unless I find that I really just need to comment on them. But in that case, I'll just tell you where you can skip ahead to. Oh, and do keep in mind these are just my personal opinions and nothing more. Alright, so in the end, I actually really enjoyed Fate Stay Night. The plot was interesting, the battles were very well done, and the characters, well, we'll get into that later. It was pretty enjoyable most of the way through, with some minor hiccups here and there. However, while I did really enjoy the series, I personally felt there was a lot holding it back from being a great series. Some of the interesting plot twists were only really lightly brushed over and weren't really given much time to develop, and really didn't really have an impact on the overall plot at all. Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand the reasons for that. I do understand that all the different routes in the original visual novel were far too convoluted to collaborate into a single series like they did with something like, let's say, Canon, for example. I also understand that there were some things in some of the routes in the original visual novel that were way too dark to adapt. So I will forgive it in this regard, but I will say this, if they didn't plan for these plot twists to amount to anything major, why did they even bother including them in the first place? But it's only a minor complaint from me in any case, and I do think what we did get was very enjoyable. I just personally feel that there's a lot holding this series back from being a great series. Okay, now on to talking about the characters. Let's start with the main man himself, Shiro. To be perfectly honest, I thought Shiro was kind of an idiot. I mean, he doesn't seem to grasp this concept of servants have to fight each other in order to attain the Holy Grail. I understand not wanting anybody to die for you, but he doesn't seem to grasp that this is a servant's job. He's also way too trusting. It's hard to talk about this without going into spoilers, but those of you who are familiar with the series will know what I mean. He's way too trusting, even with people who have previously tried to kill him. However, his heart is in the right place and he is a good person. I know his intentions are pure, but he's kind of an idiot. I do honestly like Shiro. I just think he's a bit stupid. But he did get to have some pretty badass moments later on. Now on to the leading lady herself, Saber. Oh, Saber, you're a woman after my own heart. Let me tell you, if I weren't... well...
If you weren't what?
It doesn't matter.
What's he talking about?
Anyway, Saber was a pretty badass lady. She was just simply an awesome character. Kind of starts off as a little bit of a bitch, but she does go through some really good development over the course of the series. Though, some of it did seem to come on quite suddenly, because certain events that occur aren't really given a proper explanation. But Saber's just simply an amazing character, and I guarantee anybody who watches this series will just love her to bits. She's just a badass.
Heh, but do you think she's enough of a badass to be on Team Daiguren?
Oh, and doesn't she look just adorable when she's sleeping?
Hey, don't pretend you didn't hear my question.
Now, as for Toe Sucker, I thought that she was...
Wait, what did you just say?
I was talking about Toe Sucker.
Toe sucker?
Yeah.
You mean toe sucker?
Yeah, that's what I said.
You seriously have no right to call Shiro an idiot.
Anyway, as for Toe Sucker, quite honestly, I didn't really care for her for most of the series. She kind of creeped me out. Sorry, but a moody mage girl who's trained in the ancient art of Jim Jam Yaha, let's see how many people get that reference, kinda makes me feel uncomfortable. but there were some things that showed me that she is a good person, and there was one event near the end that did get her into my good books. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you might be able to figure it out as we go on. Oh, and somebody should tell Toesucker that it's not a good sign to be going grey at such a young age. Anyway, as for Archer, I honestly thought he was kind of a dick. Sorry, but he came off as kind of a cold-hearted dick to me. Now, before you say anything, I am fully aware of his real identity, and I know some of the stuff that occurred to make him this way. However, these things are only ever hinted at in the anime, which is a shame because Archer could have been one of the most interesting characters in the series if they had gone into more detail on these things. But in the end, he just comes off as kind of a dick in the anime. While I didn't like him in this series, I feel like I could have liked him if they had actually properly addressed who he is and why he is the way that he is. I know some of you probably want me to comment on Sakura. Well, the thing is, because of the route that the anime follows, she doesn't actually do much throughout the course of the series. Anything interesting about her was only ever lightly brushed over and never really got addressed. She's another character that could have been really interesting if they had fleshed out her backstory a bit more. But, as such, they didn't, so I don't really have a lot to say here. You alright, Cloud?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. When you mentioned her, it was like the Genova cells inside of me were screaming out in fear.
That's odd.
Don't worry, I'm alright. Continue.
Well, if you're sure. Anyway, I will say that I absolutely hated her brother. Hated him. Could not stand this slime ball. Even before things about him were revealed, I hated him. I know some people probably want me to say what I thought about Ilya. Well, honestly, she scares the crap out of me. No, I'm serious. I don't scare easily, but Ilya frightens me. Why? Oh, gee, I don't know. There's something about a bipolar, psychopathic, killer Lolita chick running around with a servant who looks like Akuma and Triple H's love child that just seems frightening to me. She seriously scares me to no end. Every time I go to sleep now, all I hear is this.
Tick tock goes the clock till Ilya kills McClawson.
I'm fearing for my life here.
That's actually because I stand over your bed at night and sing that to you while you try to go to sleep.
You bitch! Anyway, anybody else I could talk about, I'd probably have to go into spoilers for, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to stop there. Now, as for the dubbing, I thought it was pretty good, though there were some characters who I thought could have used different voice actors, but everybody turned in a good performance. I'm not the biggest fan of Sam Riegel, but he did do a good job as Shiro. Kate Higgins was simply awesome as Saber, and Liam O'Brien is just absolutely awesome in any character that he voices. Well anyway, that's what I thought of Fate Stay Night. Not without its flaws, but still an enjoyable series. I recommend giving it a watch.
Hey, we should get KHF to play the Heaven's Feel route in the visual novel. If things in the anime freaked him out, imagine how he'd react to that.